Hi, my name is Jay, and I'm about to summarizing chapter 4 and 5. So let's start. Here I made PPT, starting from chapter 5, which is better for indexing the whole concept of knowledge, KM and KMS. So, what is knowledge, which we have tacit or explicit ones? It can refer to an object, a cognitive state, or a capability. IT, informational technology, may reside in individuals, groups, documents, processes, policies, physical settings, or computer repositories. And what is KM? Knowledge management, which involves distinct but interdependent processes of knowledge creation and maintenance, knowledge storage and retrieval, knowledge distribution, and knowledge application. It can be involved in multiple knowledge management process chains. KM is not a monolithic, but a dynamic and continuous organizational phenomenon. KMS, knowledge management system, by drawing on various IT tools and capabilities, can play a variety of roles in support of organizational knowledge management processes. Also, KMS can lead to various forms of KM support extending beyond the traditional storage and retrieval of coded knowledge. So, in chapter 4, we talk about research issues in knowledge management. Here we talk about why pursue KM is to increase market share and share price. Here are four elements. The first one is firm organizational knowledge. As I mentioned before, here is like tacit knowledge. You can understand this as rare, valuable, and imperfectly imitable ones. And the second one is elements of knowledge and knowledge worker effectiveness. Tacit knowledge needs to be inexplicable. Um, so here we think about how to find them, where to find them, and what is that. Um, and the third element is knowledge absorption. How to locate and recognition, the availability of knowledge. And the fourth one is the KM processes, how to identify, capture, utilize the collective knowledge in an organization in order to help the organization compete. So, in this book, we talk about lots of questions relate to uh, research issues in knowledge management and how to reapply this knowledge to individuals. How is the firm separate the valuable ones from less imitable tacit knowledge? Uh, we hear some like we can ponder later. And for knowledge creation, um, we do have the main problem as we call culture, and it involves with different circumstances. People do constrain and limit their freedom to share their knowledge with their crews or their novice. And you can understand this as care relationship. And later we do have organizational design, which is an important catalyst for knowledge creation. Here are two views. The first one is close tie in a community limit knowledge creation. Example from Robertson's one, Newell. Um, so we can understand this as distant, informal, spontaneous, constant between different organizational subunits, which is an important mechanisms for knowledge creation. For the second view, we have knowledge creation is better served by close ties in a community of practice. We think this as collective knowledge base, sharing between a self-selected peer group. And in this book, they talk about BA, but a function of spatial design, how they really uh, enforce is to is the continual conversion of tacit knowledge into explicit and then back to tacit, and they call them knowledge conversion, knowledge conversation. Here are some questions on the right side of this PPT. So, because the time is limited, so we're gonna continue. Uh, Research on shear space and shear bonds. Here we talk about barriers, the lack of time to make knowledge available, share to work smarter, um, tax focus with deadline. This is how like people in big corporation they do focus on their own tax without really sharing their data, their all like information, their knowledge with their economics, or they do have hegemonies of knowledge, which means uh, they do think the power of their own personal knowledge. So, which means they don't want to share the knowledge with each other because they think this is really their privilege. Then we have the solution, which is the role of senior managers. Uh, the goal is to provide incentives such as basing promotion decisions in part in one's knowledge contribution, which can help to encourage individuals to help each other. And the goal is to find creativity, innovations, and flexibilities, knowledge storage and retrieval, explication, codification, and organization. Uh, so it's to, the goal is to ensure knowledge, um, and the knowledge is dynamic rather than static. So in slide 6, we have questions on distribution. What degree knowledge needs to be shared internally? Location of knowledge retrieval question. Information overload problem. Information distribution follows a need to know approach. And then we do have debate whether information technology inhibits or facilitates knowledge creation and use. And here's some there are some conclusions. The first one is KMS inhibits learning. The second one is IT plays a limited role in knowledge creation because they are only helpful if an individual knows what he is looking for. And third one is KMS is incapable of keeping pace with dynamic needs of knowledge creation. And then we do have explicit knowledge is not applied to this argument. Explicit knowledge can be used mindlessly. Uh, Except for the first conclusion, I think the rest of threes uh, make sense for me. Um, right, I don't really think KMS inhibits learning. So later we have uh, system quality, knowledge quality, and usefulness, all those concepts. And for system quality, we have attributes, characteristic of knowledge, computer interface, flexibility, and effectiveness of search mechanism, information quality, usefulness. And for knowledge quality, we do think what kind of knowledge can be useful, codified, and at what level of detail, how to protect coded knowledge from imitation. Usefulness, knowledge should not be equally important. And in managing KM initiatives is to facilitate knowledge creation, storage, and transfer. So we talk about senior management here. The role of senior management is to is can be defined as full and active commitment and sponsorship of senior management. In many corporations, they do lack of senior management to promote knowledge sharing. Um, hmm. So later on, we have link of KM to organizational strategy. People do question about should they link KM to business strategy. Uh, and here are some elements we should think about. The first one is make knowledge visible, a taxonomy of expertise, corporate yellow pages. And the second one is to build knowledge intensity, competence centers, communities of practice. And the third one is to build a knowledge infrastructure. And the fourth one is to develop a knowledge culture, knowledge sharing values and norms. Link KM to business strategy. Um, Here's some ways to do that. So, as we talk about CIO, Chief Information Officer, and we do have CKO, Chief Knowledge Officer. Here's the definition of CKO: is to understand how people learn and share their knowledge. The goal is to establish processes, incentives, and rewards to encourage contributions to the organizational knowledge base and transforming individual learning to organizational learning, or with separate knowledge center under the leadership of CKO, staffed with individuals responsible for coding, classifying, and maintaining knowledge, or repository manager to assure quality of content by thoughtful abstracting and indexing. Um, yeah, and this book also mentioned many questions reflects the relationship of CIO or CKO with business strategy, whether they can benefit or how they really gain trust, respect in this with people who contribute to the success of the KM initiatives. Later on, we have summary of KM research issues. So we talk about relationship between knowledge and firm level competitive advantage. And we do have we talk about relationship between knowledge and individuals. And we also talk about processes of knowledge management and the potential role of IT in these processes. And at last, we talk about organizational issues of KM and KMS initiatives. Okay, that's my all of my summary, and thanks for your patience. Bye.